So how many of you EDC a flashlight? Yeah, like in your pocket every single day, a flashlight. You know, a lot of folks think that's entirely ridiculous because, you know, phones have flashlights built into them. But for the past 6 years, I've been carrying this, the Fenix E05. And this is a great flashlight. A few things I like about it. I don't know the lumens of this light. I mean, this is old, but it's small. You see how small that is? I mean, that doesn't take up a lot of real estate in your pocket. And one of my favorite features is that it takes a single AAA battery. This thing has been through the wash, I would say at least 50 times, at least. I mean, this thing lives in my pockets and every single time it comes out just fine. Just nothing happens to it, except for yesterday. It stopped. It stopped. Now, one thing very particular to this exact one, you can buy other Fenix E05s, and I think I bought like 3 or 4 of them at one time. But you see the lens on this one? It's got the frosting around the outside and the clear part in the center. That little feature makes this light perform better than even other ones that have its namesake on the side. Really quickly this morning, I was looking for my gear, places where I would keep stuff, and one of the boxes I found was, well, we call it camping stuff, but in here is some of what was my collection of prepping gear. Prepping and camping, and I haven't looked in this box for, I don't know, a couple of years, so I thought, you know what, why don't we just go through it together? Maybe there's gear that I've used extensively in here I can quickly talk about. Maybe there's gear that I just bought it and I didn't use it, like so many preppers seem to do. But let's throw an overhead camera up and we'll just get into this thing and see what we got. That should be good. All right, audio sync. Okay, first off the top, we got this cooking set. Now this thing is terrible. It is really bad. The reason it sucks is because everything sticks to it. It's got the little frying pan skillet on this side, and then it's got a frying basket if you want to deep fry things, and then just a pot. Very thin, stainless steel, useless. I've used it quite a few times, but man, even if you put like a half a pound of butter in there and 3 eggs and scramble them, they're all gonna stick to the side. Don't like that thing. I have other cook pots, but they're not in here. I know they're not in here. Ah, right on. So here we have our CKT, or CRKT. This is one of their little tomahawks. I don't know, I thought this thing was kind of cool. I bought this actually on the Snap-on truck. they sold them for some reason. I'm like, oh, I gotta have that. Never really used it. I used to carry it with me hunting. Just don't use it. And again, being an actual tomahawk, the handle comes in from the top, and so then as you go like this, it tightens up. And if I were to go like this, just bash this against a rock, I could take the head off, break it down. Kind of the nice thing about that is it's a lot easier to hang a tomahawk out in the woods if all you have is what you find on the land than hanging an axe, where you got to drive it up and then put a wedge and all that stuff. So that thing's kind of cool. I put some paracord wrap on it right up near the head. It doesn't look very good. And then I also did a hockey wrap, like you would wrap a hockey stick. Not very traditional, but I thought it'd give me better grip. It does, but I don't ever use it, so what does it matter? And then here's a little mask I made, very podunk, kind of junky. In my early days of playing with Kydex, and then the concept was just kind of wrap it around like this, give it a little tie, and you're done. There we go. Okay, here we're digging into some history. This here is the first decent sort of knife I ever made. So this is a 1/4 inch thick 01 tool steel. The shape of it I'm not that crazy about. It's kind of weird, but this is where it all started. In fact, this knife I actually have tattooed on my calf because this was the first knife I made that wasn't from salvage steel, like a file or something like this. And this is decently sharp. I've taken this camping before. For a 1/4 inch blade, I mean, I haven't sharpened this recently, but for a 1/4 inch thick blade, this was done with a file, all with a file. And this was before I had a belt grinder. It's not so bad, but very heavy, very clunky, interesting shape to it, brass pins, and Yeah, I got this thing tattooed on my body, and then here's a sheath I made for it. Again, this was a terrible job. There's no welt in here, so there's no spacer, but I do have rivets. So if this was a sewn leather sheath, I'm sure this would have cut through it by now. And I've actually taken this camping quite a few times. I've used this out in the woods quite a few times, and it holds up. The one thing I'm quite impressed with is the wood is actually staying. It hasn't shrunk down, and this wasn't a stabilized wood. I believe it was Cocobolo. But yeah, it's not a bad knife. It's not gorgeous, but it's not bad. All right, what do we have next? Shooting. So these are the Howard Light by Honeywell. I bought these for shooting muffs. So they're noise canceling, but they also are noise amplifying to a certain degree. So you can turn it and adjust it real loud. So say if you're hunting, you can actually hear better than without these on. It magnifies the sound, but as soon as you take a shot, I don't know, it's got some super fast switch technology thing. If these things are charged up. Hello? Oh yeah. So I can hear myself really well when I'm whispering. It's crazy how much it magnifies the sound. Actually, I gotta turn this. Like, it magnifies the sound like crazy, but then when I turn it all the way off, it sounds like regular hearing protection. So I've known guys that have worn these at work, but I just wear them for shooting. Pew pew. Okay, what next? Okay, so I've got a cycling strap here, toe strap. And this is just, I don't know why there's tape on here. This is just some cheap butcher knives that I bought and I use for processing deer, for breaking down my deer. So we got like a boning style knife here and more of a butcher, this looks like salt-based knife. These are pretty good, I don't mind them. Made in Brazil, Mundial, high carbon, stain resistant steel. So I'm not sure what kind of steel these are, but they actually do not bad. I sharpened them up once during a deer breakdown. Speaking of deer, it is officially deer season right now. And I haven't even got my tags yet. And I've been shooting throughout the summer, shooting my bow. Haven't dry fired it. Finally got my string fixed from when I dry fired it. But I'm excited to go out. And this Christmas we bought our boys, actually all of our kids, my daughter as well. We bought them all compound bows. And both my boys now got their hunting licenses. They passed their hunter education, and so they're getting tags as well. They're excited about that. Here we have a little Tasmanian tiger pouch. Why did I buy this? What did I have? I don't know. I've got so many of these things. They got the Molly in the back here. I don't know. This is my son's Estwing. Bought this at a flea market in Arizona. Brought it back for him. That was when my wife and I went there for like a few days just by ourselves. That's cool. This, I need to actually set this up. This is my old game cam. Nothing fancy, wild game. I don't know I don't know any of the specs on it, but I've had this one for probably 5 or 6 years. Not Wi-Fi or anything like that, but it does okay. And I'll set this up at my parents' place just so I can kind of see what animals they got out there. But usually I'll do this all summer long so that when we're at the time we're at right now, hunting season, I've already got a library of photos stored up, but maybe it's not even worth it this year. Couple of dry bags, Sea to Summit. I bought these, never used them. This was an interesting idea, this right here. So when we lived in our fifth wheel, when we were building our house, it turned into 2.5 years living in a fifth wheel. And we bought this as a Scrubba. It's a wash bag. So it's essentially just a dry bag. It's got like a see-through panel on here, but on the inside has all these little nubulars. These little nub things, and the idea behind it is that you put your clothes in here, seal it up, and then you kind of just, and it kind of smooshes it and shakes it around, and then also pocket laundry wash. So these are kind of cool. These are little tiny things. We've got you may have seen these before. Essentially, this is laundry detergent that's kind of just dried out in a little paper sheet. Man, that smells good. So the idea is you can just take one of these, drop it into a bag and do laundry. And this is actually a really good idea if you're traveling, staying in a hotel. Even if you're like out for cycles, I'm glad I found this. This might come in super handy here. Even when we've gone camping this summer, it would have been nice to have had this, because there's sometimes where it's like, you just want to, you know, I don't know. This thing's actually really cool. I got this at Lee Valley, not sponsored or endorsed or anything like that. And then there's 50 washes in this little thing. So, you know, you're going to take this with you. You put your little washes in there. Like that right there will allow you to do laundry. So that's kind of cool, I think. The old clean canteen. This has been my oldie but goodie. I've had this one for a long time. Got my Swalbo sticker on there. This was a Jeremy Goertz photography sticker. Obviously not good quality. And then Surly. Had this for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. I should actually start using it again. I kind of like it. Now I had this thing I did for a while, and I'm not entirely sure why, but I would keep Ichiban packets. You know, I usually have 2 Ichibans if I'm gonna have Ichiban, and I only like 1 packet of seasoning. So I'd take this seasoning, and I kept them along with ketchup. And the idea being that as a prepper little library here, I could, you know, I could take this if I'm going hiking or camping, and you could just use this and like make soup with it. I should probably just throw this in the garbage, but I can't bring myself to do so. Okay, we got a little Yuko light lantern. These things are actually cool. They just use these little tea lights, stick them in like this, and it kind of holds it up like that, and then you put this on, and it actually works really well. You get a nice little bit of light. Emergency radio, it works. Flashlight on it. Cool. I bought this in Arizona. Don't know if I would ever use this. It's one of my kids' headlamps. Gore-Tex Repair Kit. I actually bought this to make a fix on a jacket, and then I thought I should probably just keep it. Maps. I think these are underestimated in bugging out preparedness. Like, one thing I've started doing lately is I try and get into the city going as much by back roads as I can, and I don't have a GPS. Like, I don't have a phone. I think the last thing I would ever put on my bike is a phone mount, because I ride a bike to get away from things, not to bring my phone with me. But anyways, what I'll do is I'll study maps. I've actually got some pretty detailed maps of back roads, and I'll memorize the route, and then as I'm going, I'll just try and walk myself through. And it's actually a fun mental challenge. It kind of makes it exciting when you're out there, because it's like, I think I turn left. I'm not sure. I'm just going to turn left and hope for the best. And then it's also a good skill set to have. It's something that if you don't use it, it's not there for you, right? Like, you need to practice map reading, navigating by maps, and so it's fun too. And it's easy to do. Just don't use your smartphone, right? Just don't use Google Maps. Have a look at one of these, figure it out yourself, memorize the route, and go that way. Speaking of maps navigation, I've got a Magellan Explorers 310. I'm sure this is like ancient school technology, but I got this thing used for like 30 bucks. And I don't know, I thought it was cool. Life straw. Still has the seal on it, never used it, but apparently you can just like stick this in a puddle of water and drink, and it filters it. I've known people that use them, and they say they work well. A little ferro rod on a little paracord with some Gorilla Tape, 1-inch Gorilla Tape. Obviously a little prep for something. This is just the container for my MSR Pocket Rocket stove. I keep that in a different bin because I actually use it a lot more regularly than this stuff. These are 2 gems right here, the original Leatherman. These guys are hard to find nowadays. Plus, I have my other original Leatherman here. So I own 3 of the original, the OG Leatherman. And this one I kept really loose, and I liked it because I could use it like a butterfly knife, right? Except for that, I should tighten that up a bit, but. Cool. I've actually had people like offer to buy these from me for like $200 each, and I'm like, I'm not selling these ones. They don't make these anymore. It's one of my favorite multi-tools. What is this? I used to buy all these little pouches at Home Depot, way less expensive than like the tactical stuff like this. What do we have in here? This looks like a little fire kit of some sort. a big massive ferrocerium rod, Altoids tin. Oh, okay, we got some tinder. I've got char cloth in here. I made some char cloth, some actual charcoal, some steel wool, and dryer lint. It's a little tinder box. Oh, okay, and this stuff here, this is instant fire charcoal starter. This stuff's actually pretty good. You can just hit a spark on this and it actually burns for a while. So this is just a little container, little pouch with some fire starting accoutrements. Now, oh, we got one of these colons. I don't know how to say that one. A folding saw. This actually works pretty good. It's not as good as some of them, but it was also like $8 from Canadian Tire. So it's not a long-lasting tool, but this thing will cut down trees and limbs very quickly. So if you're just looking for something, say you've got, you know, a couple trees to limb in your front yard or something, or I don't know, it actually does work well. And in a survival situation, like for a survival kit, I think it'd be worth it. You know, I don't think you could plan on using this for years and years, but for a couple days, no problem. Some nitrile gloves, 1 pair. This is from a first aid kit. And then I have this thing here, various toiletries and stuff. So I got some first aid cream, some topical powder to stop bleeding, quick clot powder stuff. Oh, these more cool things. Pepto-Bismol in here, and then these like pocket shampoos, just like the laundry detergent, right? These little things. Ooh, that smells good too. You know, it doesn't really apply to me because I don't really have hair on my head, so I don't really need shampoo. So this is shampoo with conditioner, 50 leaves. But for traveling, handy to have. You know, for camping, the campsites that we were at this summer, they have showers. And we didn't know that, and so we didn't bring shampoo, because I mean, when you got like 6 people that are camping in one minivan, you gotta be careful how much stuff you bring. But this would have been a no-brainer. Just pop that in. We ended up actually going into the town, buying shampoo because we extended our stay, but if I'd have had this, that'd have been great. And then soap and some tea lights, blah, blah, blah. Toothpaste. Here's just a strap for my Patagonia fly fishing fanny pack thing. That's actually a really great piece of kit. That's downstairs. Oh, tarred bank line. Dave Canterbury got me onto this stuff. It's actually pretty cool stuff. I like this. And, you know, you could just take a length of this, you know, and keep it, you know, rewind it up, keep it in a small ball or something like that. But actually fairly useful stuff for all kinds of things. Tent spikes. You know, 2 times since having these, I've bought aluminum tent spikes because they're lightweight, just with the idea of putting in a shelter kit, and I have no clue where they are. I bought them twice and I don't know what happened. So they're not in here, but I got these. Okay, so this is a Buck 110 folding hunter that I ran over with a bobcat. My dad gave this knife to me, I think when I was 12 years old. It was his knife, and my kids were playing with it. I was skinning a deer. I had the deer hanging by the bobcat, and they set this down on the tire, and then I drove the bobcat. It's not too bad, but it got scratched up a little bit. And it kind of munted the sheath. This doesn't actually close anymore. But the old Buck 110 folding hunter. There's a classic blade right there. This is a little Browning LED hat light. I use it for hunting, and it's nice because it's got the red light. So, you know, when you're setting up in your tree stand, or if you're going into your spot and it's, you know, before sunrise, this is enough actually to hike through most of the places I hike. And then we've got the white one too, but I've actually used this little thing a lot. I got this for free somewhere, or I found it on the side of the road or something. I don't know, but it actually works pretty good. You can kind of knock it down like this if you need to. Handy little thingy. I've never even changed the battery in this thing. 2032, cool. Alrighty, we got some storm-proof matches. These are the best. The best. These things, you can actually light them underwater. Not even a joke. They got this heavy coating on them. They're not cheap. And they also need the special striker. Like, these don't strike in many other places, and so they give you a couple spare strikers in there. But yeah, these things can be completely soaking wet and they will light. And then this fuel, this accelerant on here, it'll probably burn for about 20 seconds. So it's not just a quick light it, and you can use this to ignite things. These are very handy. I like them, and I buy them, a lot of them. I've got lots of these kicking around. I don't know why. I don't really ever use them, but I buy them. Again, that's like a prepper problem. Anyways, we've got antiseptic towelettes, benzo something chloride, whatever. Antiseptic towelettes. Okay, cool. That's neat. A little pair of binoculars. These pair are shot. They're just loose as a goose, but the optics still work. They're just kind of weird to use. Oh, glad I found this. This is for my Baton. You know, I have the Baton right here because I use it when I'm cycling. There we go. See that? That's pretty cool. And this is for this. This, again, I got in Arizona. The reason I carry this when I'm cycling is because I get chased by dogs sometimes. And I just kind of, get out of here, dog. Very often, if a dog comes at you, you got a stick and you point it like this, that dog's not coming near you. So I've never actually had to use this, but it's nice because it folds up small. I usually carry it in my fanny pack, and then trouble ever comes, you have it. Now, technically, you know, here in Canada, we've got some of the most pathetic laws. You know, essentially anything that you carry on your person in Canada that could possibly, or if you carry it with the intent to defend yourself in a situation where you're attacked, technically that's an illegal weapon, as far as I understand. Like really, the way the laws are kind of written here is just like, okay, let's let everyone here in Canada just be victim to violent crime or dogs. This is a wiener roasting stick. That's why I carry it. Compass for navigation. I don't actually know how to use one of these. I should probably learn it, but every time I try and look it up, my eyes glaze over. Okay, here's an early knife. I think this is the second knife I ever made, and from a file. That other one I showed you was the first one from actual steel. This one was from a file. Yeah, check this one out. We've got the double plunge line there. That was like next level. Actually, this knife is very comfortable. The heat treat took really well, and it holds its edge nicely. And for quite a few years, actually, my wife used this in the garden for, you know, harvesting. It's just the right size for that. Nice and light. And it fit her hands really well, and she could cut things up. But I never made a decent sheath for it. I just have this, and you can see, because I don't have a welt in there, again, I didn't understand the concept of a welt, that layer of leather that you sew between the two outer layers. This just cuts right through the thread, so that's why it lives in here. You can see the tip of that poking out. Put that in your pocket, boys. Yeah, jump in your leather truck, leather-seated truck. Getting to the end here, we got some razor blades. These are for those Havelock. Is it Havelock? Haviland? I don't know. Those skinning knives that take the razor blades. So these are surgical steel razor blades. I like those knives. I actually use them a lot. Oh, here's a piece of paracord with a cable stop. Oh, it's probably saving this when I was for like building a backpack. I'll kind of always have this idea. I want to make my own ultra lightweight backpack. Some shock cord. I actually need this for a pack of mine. It's good to find it. Another ferro rod with a striker. You know, there's such a huge difference in quality in ferro rods. If I remember, yeah, this one's garbage. Like, hardly get a thing off of this. I guess that's not too terrible. But by comparison, I'm not sure if this one's any better or not. Could also be the striker. Yeah, this one's not very good either. Having said that, this next item in here, Speedy Sharp. Really actually quite terrible for sharpening knives. It does work, very aggressive. Like if you've got a really chunked up knife, you chipped it or something like that, this thing can bring it back, but I think this is like something you'd bring in the field, and this is an emergency means to sharpen a knife because it removes a lot of material from the blade. And if you don't do it really carefully, you can just, it can mess up your bevel. It will get it sharp, but you're gonna spend a long time getting it cleaned up after. But this does work very well for throwing sparks. So I guess this could be kind of like a multi-function tool. If you bring it with you, you got the sharpener, and yeah, I've tried this. I've used it to sharpen knives. Machetes, that's actually good for sharpening machetes, but good for throwing sparks off of a ferro rod as well. So something I would probably carry with me. It's also not that heavy and it's small, right? You can tuck this into your bag and never know it's there until you need it. Lint, dryer lint, very, very good fire starter. More dryer lint. And again, some people, young people might not even know what that is. It's a film container. You used to, you know, when you wanted to take a picture, you get the film and put it in the camera. I actually found a whole bunch of expired film of mine the other day, and my film camera, I bought some batteries for it like 2 weeks ago, and so I'm just trying to find a place in the city that will develop 35mm film. If I do, I'm just gonna do a little photo walk and do a video, and we'll just take some pictures with expired film, see what it looks like. Piece of fat wood, cool. And then in here, this was kind of a sad move. You know, when I was really into prepping, I didn't have an awful lot of disposable cash. And so I kind of made do with what I had. And I remember places were getting rid of, like, there's a Canadian Tire and Drumheller was liquidating a lot of stuff like this, like emergency blankets, and not having any money to buy like proper, like nice, say a sil nylon tarp. I just would buy all this super duper cheap stuff. These survival blankets. This one I actually really like, this sport utility blanket. I've set this up before. It smells terrible. That's the one downside. It's got a weird smell, but it's pretty cool. I actually like it. It's got grommets in it, if I believe. Maybe it doesn't. Anyways, I've used this a few times, and for the price point, definitely worth it. Survival, I don't know, but basically I used it in that configuration. I set it up like that a few times, and it does work just fine. You know, I think the funnest part about like prepping and survival stuff is just the playing around with it, like the using it out in the field. I would hate to actually have this be my only shelter and not knowing, you know, if I could get home, if I ever would get home, but like this is it. Oh man, that'd be brutal. More Mylar blankets. And then this was from a first aid kit, actually. And I think it's, if you got somebody that's bleeding out, this is like a blood absorbent pad, but it's very large. We had these at Sangel. I got my advanced first aider training, so it was like a 2-week first aid course. And then when you're done that, you're actually technically a registered healthcare provider in the province of Alberta, meaning that if there's an accident and if there's only a police officer there, I could come in and offer like you know, first aid, and legally he can't stop me. So that's all that meant. And then companies, a certain size of employees, had to have a certain number of people that had their advanced first aid criteria. And I could administer oxygen and a few other things. But anyways, we had these awesome first aid kits, and they would just, I think after 6 months, they would just throw them out, literally throw them out. And I took them, I got hauls. I had every parent on the hockey team, I gave them one, because they'd just be, you go to the garbage can and there's like, where are they? I don't know if I have one here. They're really nice. They're a first aid kit this big. And so every parent, and like, I took these things, and I was also coaching hockey. And so, you know, I bring my first aid kit, like, wow, that's a nice first aid kit you have. It's like, yeah, I've got like 100 of them. And they're like, what? So I gave them out. They were pretty cool. But anyways, I should have sold them and used the money to buy some good prepping gear instead of all this cobbled together, do it on a budget type thing. Even this here, this little pouch, Western Star trucks. Anyways, that's pretty much it. We didn't find what we were looking for, which is my little flashlight. And you know, on Amazon, I can't even see that one as available to me. So I'm gonna have to do some soul searching, figure out what kind of a flashlight I want, and hopefully I can just find the other two. I have 2 of those flashlights in a box like this somewhere in this house. Thanks for watching, guys. And if you have any questions about this stuff, just leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Play with maps.